Dr. Indra Lahiri was adopted into the tribe of White Earth Nation, Anishinaabe, and she was named the Woman of the Fire. She has rescued thousands of animals from dire circumstances around the world, tells their stories in her writing and speaking, and lives amongst them between her travels. In 2005, Indra founded the Indra Loka Animal Sanctuary and co-organized the Global Coalition of Farm Sanctuaries in 2014. She has taught, mentored, coached, and addressed tens of thousands of people as a keynote speaker on a range of topics that are always at their core based on ethical leadership and compassion for all. Indra has spoken at the Animal Rights National Conference and International Animal Rights Conference annually for the past 7 years. Her award-winning blog, which chronicles sacred moments with rescued animals, is followed by tens of thousands of readers on every continent. Every continent. I just want to make sure we put that in there. Every continent. In NEPA. Legit. Indra is grateful to have the opportunity to dedicate her life to helping traumatized animals rediscover joy, love, and trust. And today we are incredibly grateful to have her here not only as a recipient of the NEPA BlogCon 2016 Business Blog of the Year Award, but also our keynote presenter with Even Words Bleed. Please welcome Dr. Indra Lahiri to the podium.
Too short for this. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm just so honored. Thank you for the very kind and probably too kind introduction. I hope I can live up to it. And to all of the organizers of this beautiful event. How exciting is this that we have this conference happening here in Northeast PA? I'm just thrilled to be here, and I really appreciate all of you sharing this experience with us. So. I want to talk with you a little bit about something I don't normally talk about. Normally I go around and I talk to people about animals. And by the way, what you're seeing here is a video of the sanctuary as it is today and some of the animals there. We specialize in rescuing farm animals that have been in the worst possible circumstances that you can imagine. And we keep them there at the sanctuary for the rest of their natural lives. And we have a lot of opportunities to come and visit with them, so I'll talk with you about that too. But normally, when I visit with people and speak with them, I talk about the animals, and I talk about the way that we treat animals in the world today. And I can't help but continue to talk about them no matter what I do, but today I'm going to talk about writing. And in order to explain to you how my journey with writing and my little blog got started, I have to take you back to a time that is way before what you're seeing here. I have to take you back to early days at the sanctuary when I started this sanctuary because I love the animals. And somebody earlier asked about who was an introvert in the audience. I don't necessarily consider myself an introvert, but I'm a person who loves solitude. So I love animals, and I love solitude, and I love words. And I decided what better thing would there be to do than to move to the Endless Mountains by myself with 100 animals and just continue to rescue more. So that was how I got started. Little did I know what I was getting into. It was hard. It was so hard. I had this idea I was going to do it alone. It was going to be fantastic, and it was hard. So I want to take you back to a day many years ago. There was blood. It was shining in the sunshine. It was glistening on the snow. I was sitting on the frozen ground with the blood seeping into my clothes, seeping into my skin and running over and onto the snow around me. had my little goat, Hullabaloo, dying in my arms. And she was dying because it was my fault. I had failed her. I had failed her. I am not a handy person. I've never been a handy person. Everybody here who knows me knows that. When I try to, for example, hammer something, I hammer the nail in crookedly. I don't know why I do everything crookedly. So because I wasn't handy and because I insisted that I was going to do all of this alone, I had not properly secured her in at night. And I had started feeding in the other barn early in the morning, and she decided she was going to get out because she's a goat, and she's smart, and she's mischievous, and she was going to get out and go to the other barn so that she could steal everybody else's breakfast before I got to her barn for her breakfast. But it was really early in the morning, and she ended up being attacked by predators right there, getting from one barn to the next while I was in the other barn feeding the other animals. And I found out too late. So there I was on the ground with my goat dying in my arms. And I thought, I can't do this. What did I get myself into? I can't do this. I can't do this alone. I was lost. And I couldn't give up. See, here's the thing is I couldn't give up. The animals needed me. And let's just get clear on this. Less so today, although it's still true today, but much more true 10, 11, 12 years ago, is the fact that farm animals are not considered to have any value unless you want to kill them to eat them, right? They're just, in our society, these animals have no value. There's no place safe for them to go. There's nobody who sees them as the beautiful sacred beings that they are. There was nobody to whom their lives mattered. These are my best friends. These are my family. I know them just as well as you know your best friend. I love them just as much as you love your family. Their lives matter to them as much as your life matters to you. So I knew that I couldn't give up. There was no choice. There was nowhere to go for these animals. I had to find a way to make this work. So I did the only thing that I knew how to do. I prayed, and I asked for help, and I just asked if I could just be a hollow reed and let, forces of good work through me, because I could clearly not do it myself. I was clearly not capable of that, and I went back into the barn then to finish feeding the other animals, and Ruckus, another goat, looked up at me with these eyes that were filled with love, and he trusted me. He still trusted me after I had let this terrible thing happen. I knew that I couldn't betray that trust. I knew that I had to find a way. So, as I said, I asked for help, and thank goodness somebody out there was listening, and help started arriving, and doors started opening, and people started coming. And one of the people who came very early on to offer help and support is here in the audience today. And told me I needed to write. Well, I was already writing. Told me I needed to share what I wrote. Told me I needed to share what these experiences were with these animals and these beautiful moments and to help people to see what I was seeing. This guy's incredible. His name's Eddie Traffic, and he's beautiful, and he's wonderful. And he leapt off of a moving truck on Route 80 in Parsippany, New Jersey during rush hour traffic because he didn't want to go to slaughter. That's the guy. That's the guy. So every one of them has one of these incredible stories. And so I started writing. And I don't know. I didn't really know that if anybody was going to read what I wrote. I didn't really know. I mean, there are so many blogs out there. There's a lot of great writers out there. Why would anybody want to read what I wrote? But I did it anyways. I just poured my heart out and I started writing, and a miracle happened. People read it. I can't believe that. I'm still humbled by that. I share something so personal and so private and so true and real to me, and other people read it. And not only do they read it, but they care. It's amazing. It's amazing. Here I am, I'm living in the mountains, you know, by myself with hundreds of animals. And I'm just writing about them, and people all over the world are reading about them, and they're caring, and they're sending me notes, and they're sending me messages, and they're sending the sanctuary donations, and they're offering their help, and they're offering their support, and I thought, this is a miracle. This is just beautiful. I wasn't alone after all. I wasn't alone at all. None of them were alone. There were people all over the world that saw their lives as mattering. There are people that all over the world who see them for who they are. So, I started the blog in February of 2011, and by November it got picked up by This Dish is Veg, which was a very kind thing for them to do. This was a website that had an average of 10,000 viewers a day. So the first blog of mine that they published on This Dish is Veg was called Bovine Bodhisattva. And it was about this beautiful, miraculous, incredible, brave little calf that I had had. Her name was Mohrid, which means my heart. When that website published Bovine Bodhisattva, things got crazy in a good way. You know, I mean, we got phone calls, we got emails, we got messages, we got letters, and we had more offers of help and support coming in. And, you know, all because I had this beautiful little calf, and I loved her so much that I wanted to write about her and tell everybody how special she was. That was really cool. So I realized at that point that the thing that seemed to help the animals more than anything that I had ever done was to write about them. And the stories that really got the attention of people and really seemed to garner the most help and support. This, by the way, is Thanks Living. So I want you to remember that, because I'm going to tell you more about Thanks Living in a little bit. Okay? But this is a lot of fun. Anyways, so I was in a quandary because I realized that the best thing that I could do to help the animals is really kind of pour my heart out and share my vulnerability and share my emotions and my experiences, and that sucked. Because I didn't want to do it. I'm a private person. I process things alone. I don't have a lot of close friends, and the ones that I do, I'm not a pour your heart out kind of friend. I like my solitude. I like to be alone. And I'm not used to sharing my feelings that way. So I struggled with that for a little bit until I thought about the billions of farm animals that are suffering every moment of their lives. The billions of farm animals on feedlots and in factory farms and living in unspeakable conditions, who never have an ounce of comfort in their lives, who never for one moment are allowed to express their natural preferences or instincts. And here I was saying, oh no, but I don't want to share my feelings. I made a promise to myself when I was a little girl, and it was that I was going to save as many lives as I could. I was going to do whatever it took. I was going to make a difference. So I wrote, because that's what the animals required of me. So I wrote, and thank goodness, help came. So I want to talk a little bit about why it worked, because that was something that I struggled with. Why were these blogs succeeding? Why was it working? And I hearkened back to my time with the Anishinaabe people and the elders telling the stories there. And I remembered them saying to me that when they're telling the stories become alive. And the events that are happening in the story, they actually are happening at the moment the story is being told. And I was trying to write a doctoral dissertation on this, which I never succeeded in doing because I couldn't figure out how to prove that that was true, and I wasn't willing to say it's their belief. I didn't think that was respectful. It wasn't their belief, it's what was happening. They said that was what was happening, and that was what was happening. So years later, it turns out that research is proving this to be true. And this is what's critical for this audience today, okay? For us as writers. Princeton University did a study in 2010 where they looked at MRI brain scans of people telling stories and people hearing the stories. And they found that when the stories resonate on an emotional level, the storyteller's brain activity and the listener's brain activity actually mirror each other. You can put those MRIs right on top of each other, and they're the same activity happening in both the storyteller and the listener. I thought, well, that's fascinating, and that explains why I have to tell things that are from the core of me, right? So I started thinking about that, and I thought, even words bleed. They're living, breathing things. When you speak from your heart, when you speak from your truest self, when you pour all of that out, your words come alive. They are living, breathing, bleeding things. So I started reading more research on this, and I discovered that when someone hears a story and reads a story, the same areas of their brain are involved. Now, what's fascinating about this is those areas of the brain that are involved, they're not just the language processing area. Okay, so if I say to you the word chair, okay, or the word book, there's a language processing area of your brain that is lit up. But if I'm telling you a story, the parts of your brain that light up are the parts that would be lighting up if you were doing the activity you're hearing about. Okay, so if I say to you, Pedro kicks a ball, okay, the parts of your brain, if I told you that in a story that you were resonating with, the parts of your brain in which you would kick a ball actually light up. So that ancient wisdom is true. Stories do come alive. So there's more. If I describe a smell to you, the parts of your brain that process that smell light up. So if I'm describing something that's happening, if I'm describing an emotion that I'm having, if I'm describing something that I'm touching and feeling, or that I'm smelling or seeing, you're experiencing it. The words come alive. Isn't that amazing? So all I had to do was, every time I turn around, Eddie's back on the screen. I know there were more animals in this film than Eddie. Oh, there they are. So, Eddie made me lose my train of thought. But my train of thought is this, that if we have something that we're trying to accomplish through our blogs, okay, for me, it's the mission of the sanctuary and the animals. For you, it may be a business that you're running, it may be a dream that you're wanting to accomplish, it may be an experience that you've had, it may be a variety of things. If it matters to you, in your heart and in your core, if you can tell stories about it from your truest, deepest self, I'm not just talking about just making up stories that you don't really relate to, but if you dig deep to the heart of you, and you pour that out without any worry about who's my target audience and what do I want them to accomplish and what action do I want them to take. Like, all that stuff is great stuff, but if you just pour it out, the right people are going to find your story, and they're going to hear it, and they're going to experience it, and they're going to resonate with it, and they're going to help you with your mission. I want to leave you with a couple of things. One is an invitation, and the timing is perfect because this is Thelma and Louise again, so these are two of our turkeys. And the invitation is that we have a really big event coming up on November 6th, and we haven't sold out on our tickets yet, so I wanted to tell you about it, and it has to do with the last story I'm going to tell you. So these things are all connected. Thanks Living is an event on November 6th from 11 to 4 in which we have a celebration of the turkeys. We have the opportunity to provide a feast for them. They eat at a table with a tablecloth, and they have a whole array of wonderful things. And so the turkeys usually invite their chicken friends and their duck friends and their geese friends, and pretty soon all the animals are involved, and they're all having a fantastic feast at this wonderful table, and we have live music, and then we have a feast for the humans, and it's great fun. And I hope you can join us. And I want to read to you, I want to tell you and read a bit of a letter about a Thanks Living event that happened a couple of years ago. This is a story about a woman named Sue and a cow named Penny. And Penny will show up on the screen at some point. She probably already has. But just a little background on Penny so that you can understand the story. Sue came to Thanks Living a few years ago and had a really special experience with Penny and wrote me a letter about it that I'm going to read to you an excerpt of. But Penny had been used as a breeding cow on a beef farm where they felt that it was cruel to transport animals for slaughter. So what they decided to do instead was to kill them there on the property. So every year, Penny was forcibly impregnated. Every year, she had a calf that was taken from her and killed in front of her. Year after year after year after year. And so Penny had come to the sanctuary, and she had been at the sanctuary for about 7 years, where she had not been pregnant during any of that time, when we brought in an orphaned calf, and the calf was starving. He was almost dead. Miraculously, Penny actually began lactating when she saw this starving calf, and he started nursing. She had tears. Cows cry tears. I don't know if you know that. She had tears streaming down her face as she's nursing this orphaned calf. And by the way, there's a video of all this on our website. You're welcome to check it out. But so Sue came to Thanks Living and spent some time with Penny, and she wrote me this letter, and I just want to pull out a section for you here. Okay, here it is. When I saw Penny, this is Sue talking now. When I saw Penny resting in the grass on the hill, I went to her and put my hands on her sweet head and felt her peaceful energy. Her story of having her babies taken from her and then her maternal reaction to Mookie resonated with me. I had a son die when he was 4 and felt a connection with Penny unlike any I have ever felt with any human. Her eyes held some of the sadness that she had experienced, but they also held the love she was now feeling at the sanctuary. She was the last one I said goodbye to that day, and as I touched her head, a tear ran down her face. I believe she sensed we shared the connection of loss. I thanked her for her resilience and for the grace and peace she showed me. Sue went on then in that letter to let me know that that's when her healing began. Finally began after 4 years after this terrible experience of losing her son. Somehow this connection with Penny helped her to start healing. And that's something really cool about these animals, about all non-human animals. They make us better humans. They help us to heal, they help us to grow, they help us to learn, they help us to live more fully than we ever could without them.
Here's Penny.
Here's Penny. You can see she's really old in this shot here, and she's walking so slowly to the water that I'm filling up in that tub there. She was really arthritic and had to just take a step at a time, but she was tough. She was still getting around. She was pretty amazing. So, animals help us live life as it is meant to be lived, when we live with them as our friends. And stories help us to connect with other humans. They help us to go through the painful and the beautiful and the sacred and the joyous and everything in life. They help us to go through it all without being alone. They help us to gather support for our mission, whatever that mission might be. The stories we read and hear and share, they enrich us. They celebrate the beauty in life. They define us as humans. So, there are 2 things that I want you to do, if you would be so kind. One is come and visit us at the sanctuary. Come to Thanks Living. You can find information on the website, which is just indraloka.org /events, then you can find it. But the other thing I want you to do is I want you to dig deep. Find the core of you. Find your story, the deepest part of your story. And I want you to be brave. Have the courage to be vulnerable. Have the courage to pour your heart out from your deepest self. Have the courage to share your story because the world needs to hear it, because that's how you're going to make the world a better place. Let those words come alive. Let them live. Let them breathe. Have the courage to let them bleed. We have a few minutes for questions if anybody has any.
Where's the sanctuary located?
We're in Mahoopenny, Pennsylvania, which is actually not that far a drive from here. This morning it took me 45 minutes to get here. Yep. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You talk about being vulnerable. Was it really tough to actually interact with people that may not have the same vision as you or the same feelings? And to interact with them even if they want to see. Sometimes they're not always that vulnerable as equal as you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And for those of you who couldn't hear it, she's asking about, was it tough to be so vulnerable and be so open? You're interacting with people who aren't necessarily vulnerable and open themselves, and some of them don't get what you're doing, some of them disagree with what you're doing, all of those things, right? So was that tough? Yeah, in a way it was in the beginning. You know, there's a couple of jokes that we who rescue farm animals get over and over and over again, and people always think that they're just so original. If they say something like, bacon, you know, and all I do when that happens anymore is I just roll my eyes, you know, and I have compassion for them because they have no idea. They have no idea what they're missing, you know, the wonderful, beautiful, incredible life that they're missing, and more importantly, that's okay. We're not always going to be, all of us, on the same page and in the same mission. If somebody reads my stuff and they don't get it, or they don't like me, or they don't like what I'm doing, okay. I got 200 beings that I live with that love me, so I'm okay if not everybody else does. And the far majority, the vast, vast, vast majority are kind and supportive and open, and even if they're not doing the same thing themselves, they're nice about it, and they want to help, and they still appreciate that you've opened up. So, you know, be vulnerable anyways, and if people try to hurt you or don't agree with you, then okay. You're going to live through that. All these guys have lived through much worse, and look at how happy they are now. Any other questions? I really hope to see all of you soon. We have a little booth in the room there too, so if you want to gather some information to take home with you so that you know how to connect with us, that would be awesome. And I hope you all come to Thanksgiving.